You're lying in bed. The house is quiet. Somewhere in the distance, a faint hum, familiar, steady, rises from the kitchen. Tonight, we're going to follow that sound. Back through time. Through strange inventions, quiet disasters, and choices no one questioned until it was too late. This is the story of your refrigerator, but not the one you know now. Sleek, safe, glowing softly under modern light. No, this begins in the shadowy corners of early 20th century homes, where cold came at a cost and silence sometimes meant danger. So, settle in, let the hum carry you. And we'll begin. You open the door. A soft breath of cold rolls past your hand. The light flickers on. It smells like apples, maybe onions. The hum in the background never stops. It's subtle, steady, comforting. The refrigerator is part of your home, part of the rhythm. So familiar, you forget it wasn't always there. And you forget that, once, it was dangerous. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, not with a quirk or a fault or a short circuit. No, dangerous like gas creeping into a room, silent and cold, pressing into your lungs while you sleep. Dangerous like entire families never waking up after dinner. You wouldn't know it by looking at one now. So clean, so ordinary, but once, not even that long ago, your refrigerator could have killed you. And it wasn't rare. At first, the fridge was a marvel, a cabinet that didn't need ice, that didn't drip puddles onto your kitchen tile, that didn't rely on a man with metal tongs carrying blocks wrapped in burlap. No, this was electric, mechanical, modern. You plugged it in, and it ran forever. But in those earliest machines, something else ran too, hidden behind the steel, circulating in coils, compressed and vaporized in a quiet loop. A gas, sometimes ammonia, sometimes sulfur dioxide, sometimes something called methyl chloride. It wasn't chosen because it was safe. It was chosen because it worked. It absorbed heat. It boiled just right. It chilled the cabinet, and when it stayed inside, sealed away where it belonged. Everything was fine, but seals broke. And then, the air itself turned hostile. It didn't smell alarming. Not like smoke, not like gas from a stove. It didn't burn your throat or sting your eyes. Not at first. Methyl chloride was heavier than air, so it slithered low, brushing along the floorboards and under the door frames. It didn't rise like steam. It settled like sleep. A mother in the kitchen, a toddler on the floor, and a quiet leak from the back of the machine. There's no scream, no bang, just dizziness, a thud, then silence. By the time anyone realizes, the damage is done. And if you breathed it in, your body would slow. You might feel lightheaded, think you're tired. Sit down. The room would feel strange. The walls would tilt slightly. Your hands might tremble. The words you try to say would slur at the edges, like your tongue forgot how to hold them. You might close your eyes, thinking a nap would help. But your lungs would already be forgetting how to breathe. Hospitals didn't know what to call it. Nurses reported children arriving blue around the lips, unconscious, unresponsive, no signs of trauma, no fever, just stillness. A doctor might press a stethoscope to a chest and hear a heartbeat that sounded far away. They'd give oxygen. Sometimes it helped, sometimes it didn't. Because the gas wasn't just in the body. It was in the house. There were nights when an entire family didn't wake up. Just a knock on a door that went unanswered. Neighbors calling a landlord. Police pushing inside. A dinner table still set. A radio still playing softly. And in the kitchen, the fridge. Humming. Leaking. They didn't always call it a tragedy. Sometimes it was labeled a, quote, household accident or mysterious illness. If the gas had fully dissipated, no one could tell for sure. But those who worked on the machines knew. They knew the coils cracked, the valves loosened, the gas escaped, and still the machines kept selling. It was a gamble. But it was also progress. The icebox was disappearing. The future was mechanical. Housewives were promised freedom. No more heavy ice. No more spoilage. No more mess. Just flick a switch. Let the machine do the rest. The advertisements never mentioned what flowed inside. No one wanted to hear about chemical formulas. No one wanted to hear about death. So they didn't. And because no one asked, no one noticed. You might not notice the first signs. Just a headache, a little pressure behind the eyes, a child feeling drowsy too early. The kitchen smells faintly sweet, but not enough to mention. But something is leaking. And no one's quite sure what to do. Because no one wants to believe the thing that's keeping their milk cold is quietly filling the room with poison. Doctors begin to see patterns. Emergency rooms start taking note. A young couple, both collapsed in their apartment, with no visible injuries. A repairman hospitalized after spending just 20 minutes working behind the fridge. A child arriving unresponsive after a quiet night at home. And always, in the background, the machine. Humming, innocent, and leaking something invisible. Some hospitals start calling them icebox cases. It becomes a shorthand. Nurses whisper it behind clipboards. Another icebox case. You can hear the unease in their voices. Not just because of what's happening, but because they don't know how to stop it. What is methyl chloride doing exactly? It's not burning your skin or making your throat close. It's quieter than that. It moves through the lungs into the bloodstream. Once inside, it starts to interfere, not violently, but systematically. Your brain, your nerves, your muscles, they all depend on delicate chemical balances. And methyl chloride disturbs those. It can trigger hallucinations, convulsions, sudden heart arrhythmia. It disorients and suppresses. You might think you're just tired. You might lie down. You might never get up. In homes where tragedy struck, the scenes are often eerily similar. Food half prepared. A radio left on. A dog lying still near the refrigerator, closer to the leak. A handwritten note on the counter. An address, a reminder, something ordinary. The windows still sealed shut against the cold. And somewhere in the walls, methyl chloride continues to hiss. Not much, just a few ounces. But that's enough. It doesn't take a lot to empty a room of breath. Behind closed doors, the refrigerator companies know. Some engineers file internal reports. Some suggest sealing systems better, running more rigorous tests, or switching to different gases. But better seals cost more. Safer gases are harder to find. And no one wants to slow down the growth. Refrigerators are selling fast. Cities are modernizing. Households are bragging about owning one. It's become a status symbol. Sleek. Efficient. The centerpiece of a modern kitchen. And in the boardrooms, they do the math. The number of incidents versus the number of sales. You already know which one wins. But outside those offices, the pressure is growing. Local newspapers start to connect the dots. A quiet string of stories begins to surface. Mystery gas blamed in family death. Fatal leak linked to kitchen icebox. The headlines aren't on the front page. Not yet. But they're there. Whispering. In the suburbs of one town, a father and his teenage son collapse just feet apart. One in the hallway, the other slumped near the kitchen table. The mother returns from the store to find the smell faint but unfamiliar. She calls for help, confused, panicked. The neighbor arrives before the ambulance. By the time they reach the hospital, the boy is gone. The father survives. Barely. At his bedside, reporters ask if he remembers anything. He says it felt like fainting, like falling asleep, but in the wrong direction. Deeper, faster, with no bottom. He says it smelled sweet. Then he says nothing. The hospital refuses to comment. The fridge is removed quietly by the company. No recall, no warning, just silence. And in that silence, something spreads. There's a knock on the door. You open it. A clipboard. A camera. A quiet reporter asking if you heard anything strange last night. Another neighbor has passed. No signs of struggle, just the soft click of a light switch. And then, nothing. People are starting to talk. Not just in hospitals, not just in back offices, but across fences, in markets, in barbershops, and bakeries, and front stoops. They say it's the gas. They say the new refrigerators leak, that there's something in them, something cold and wrong. You don't know if it's true, but you do know this. Every time you hear that low hum in the middle of the night, your chest feels just a little tighter. The companies begin to sweat. It's not that the leaks are new. They've always happened. But now, people are paying attention, and the stories are gaining weight. A well-known family in a prominent neighborhood loses their youngest child. The doctor mentions a possible refrigeration gas exposure. The newspaper prints it. The brand is named. Sales dip for the first time. Inside the labs, engineers begin searching for something better. But finding a replacement isn't simple. They need something that evaporates at the right pressure. Something that circulates easily. Something that won't corrode metal or explode or suffocate a child in their sleep. Most of the known gases either freeze too late or burn too easily. One team looks at carbon dioxide. Too high pressure. Another tries air cycle cooling. Not efficient enough. A few fringe chemists even experiment with ether and propane. Promising, but wildly flammable. It's not just safety they're chasing, it's a miracle. And then, quietly, a new idea surfaces. It comes from a team of researchers, mostly unknown at the time, working with compounds called chlorofluorocarbons. Specifically, one variant, Freon 12. It doesn't burn, it doesn't poison, it doesn't suffocate. They test it in controlled loops. It runs clean. It cools evenly. It doesn't corrode copper or iron. It's inert, gentle, safe. Too good to be true? Maybe. But it works. The timing is perfect. Public pressure is building. Consumer trust is unraveling. There are murmurs of lawsuits, whispers about government regulations. One more fatal leak might push the whole market into collapse. So the companies move fast. Frigidaire, owned by General Motors, is the first to adopt Freon. They test it, package it, launch new models. They rebrand, relabel, and release. And this time, they advertise the gas. Not the fridge, not the size, not the finish or the warranty. They advertise the safety. No poison, no odor, no risk. Just clean, cold air. But for some families, it's already too late. A boy in the Bronx who fell asleep while doing homework. A grandmother in Detroit who passed just feet from her stove. A couple in a farmhouse who never made it to breakfast. No headlines. Just funerals. Just a hum that stopped being trusted. By now, repairmen have started carrying gas detectors. Some cities put out quiet advisories. If you suspect a leak, open windows immediately. Hospitals are briefed on symptoms. Fire departments begin inspecting machines after unexplained deaths. There are still no official bans, but you can feel it, the weight shifting. The era of deadly cold is ending. And just in time. It starts with a whisper, a new kind of cold. Safe? Silent? Invisible. Not the kind that makes you cough or wheeze. Not the kind that settles in the lungs or hides near the floorboards. This one just works. And for the first time in years, people begin to breathe a little easier in their own kitchens. The gas is called Freon. It's colorless, odorless, non-flammable, non-toxic, or so everyone believes. It doesn't irritate the lungs or the eyes. It doesn't explode. It doesn't kill quietly in the night. It just cools. And suddenly, everything changes. Manufacturers race to replace older models. Households upgrade. Ads fill the newspapers. Cool, clean, and safe. The refrigerator goes from suspicion to aspiration. You're not afraid of the hum anymore. You welcome it. Inside factories, machines are retooled. Engineers run new coils. Labels are redesigned. The Freon name appears everywhere. Not hidden, but proudly displayed. A badge of comfort, of cleanliness, and for good reason. No more hospital visits. No more unexplained fainting. No more black headlines buried in the second section of the local paper. Just cold food, cold drinks, cold air. The refrigerator becomes a partner in the home, not a hazard. It changes how people eat. Fresh groceries last longer. Leftovers aren't feared. Milk no longer turns in 2 days. Mothers stop boiling water before every glass. Restaurants expand menus. Corner stores carry eggs and butter year-round. The fridge stops being a luxury. It becomes the baseline. In new homes, it's no longer an upgrade. It's standard, expected, required. No fridge? No offer. By the 1950s, the refrigerator is sleek, bright, rounded at the edges like a polished car hood. It hums in the background of black and white family photos. You can see the mother smiling at it, the child reaching for the handle, the father holding a jug of something cold, smiling. It's domestic perfection. But the gas inside, Freon, has one more secret, not one that hurts the lungs. Not today. This one rises much higher. Up in the atmosphere, where you'll never go, Freon begins to linger. It's stable. It doesn't break down. It rises slowly, invisibly, until it meets the ozone layer, that thin shield wrapping around the Earth like a blanket of invisible glass. And when it gets there, it starts to eat through it. Not quickly, not dramatically, but year by year, molecule by molecule, the safe gas that saved your kitchen begins to quietly harm the sky. But no one knows that yet. All they know is that the fridge no longer kills people. And that's enough, at least for a while. The fear fades. The silence returns. And in that quiet, the refrigerator begins to evolve again. It starts showing off. No more clunky metal boxes with rust at the seams. These new machines sparkle. They gleam. They're colored like cars. Pale pink, mint green, soft butter yellow. You don't just own one. You admire it. In the showroom, a woman opens the door and gasps softly at the light inside. Not because she didn't expect it, but because it still feels like magic. Cold shelves. Silent frost. Everything lined up like a miniature grocery store behind glass. It doesn't feel like a machine anymore. It feels like a room, a closet that breathes cold. Manufacturers lean in. Handles get smoother. Shelves become adjustable. Freezers are added up top, then move to the bottom, then side by side. You don't just open a refrigerator anymore. You navigate one. Ice cube trays become automatic. Defrosting becomes self-regulating. Even the sound changes, from a chugging motor to a gentle murmur, like distant traffic heard through a closed window. The fridge is evolving, quickly. By the 1960s, it's become a cultural anchor. In American kitchens, it hums beneath checkered floors and floral wallpaper. In Soviet apartments, it represents Western luxury, a soft rebellion in white enamel. In Tokyo, it slides into tight spaces beside rice cookers and tiny gas burners, a symbol of post-war recovery. Everywhere, the fridge means progress, not just food, modernity, control, stability, and cold becomes beautiful. Cookbooks begin to feature chilled desserts, jellies, molds, whipped creams in shimmering towers. Parties show off their refrigeration prowess. Cold salads, iced drinks, creamy dips that sit out for hours without spoiling. Because the refrigerator isn't just keeping food fresh, it's redefining what food is, what it can be. And the people, they adjust. Meals are planned differently. Grocery trips become weekly, not daily. Leftovers are no longer a gamble. They're a strategy. Tupperware becomes religion. Even the way you eat starts to shift. You graze. You store. You return. Late-night snacking, a concept born of artificial cold, becomes a private ritual. The door opens softly. The light spills across the tiles. Something crisp. Something sweet. Something cold against the fingertips. The fridge becomes a companion in the quiet hours. But there's something else growing in its shadow. You don't see it yet. Not on the shelves, not in the coils, but in the numbers. Fridges are everywhere, and they're getting bigger, and louder, and more constant. The hum is no longer background. It's baseline. And soon, it won't just be a hum. It'll be data. Because the refrigerator isn't done evolving. It's just beginning to wake up. And when it does, it doesn't beep or blink or announce itself. It simply begins to notice. You don't notice the shift right away. The fridge still hums, still opens when you pull, still glows softly in the dark. But somewhere in its wiring, just behind the panel or beneath the coils, it started paying attention. Not in a creepy way, not exactly. But the machine knows when the door opens, how long it stays open, what shelf you reach for, how quickly the temperature drops when you add groceries, when you're most likely to crave something cold and sweet after midnight. It learns your patterns, and it holds on to them. This is the beginning of the smart fridge. At first, it's small things. Digital thermostats, LED readouts, little beeps if you leave the door open too long. But then it goes further. Buttons multiply. Sensors arrive. A camera appears inside. One day you see a screen where a handle used to be. You're not just storing food anymore, you're interacting. You run your fingers across a touch screen that displays tomorrow's weather. You tap through inventory lists. You get a notification. Your milk expires in 3 days. And the strangest part? You're not surprised. Because everything else in your house talks to you now. Why not the fridge? The refrigerator becomes part of a network. It connects to your phone, to your thermostat, to your grocery list. It suggests recipes. It syncs with your calendar. It knows when you're running low on eggs and sends you a gentle reminder. Or, in some cases, places the order for you. And you don't mind. It feels efficient. Clean. Predictable. The chaos of early refrigeration. The hissing gases. The quiet deaths. The emergency room visits. That's all gone now. Buried beneath polished stainless steel and softly pulsing icons. You open the door not just to grab something, but to check on the system. The fridge has become a dashboard, and it's no longer just about temperature, it's about lifestyle. Meanwhile, the design keeps evolving. Glass panels appear that turn transparent when tapped. Some models let you knock on the door to see inside. Some play music. Some stream videos. There are fridges that suggest wine pairings, that count your steps, that light up in warm hues when it's time to relax. They don't just keep food cold, they keep you warm. And deep inside, the gases have changed again. Freon is gone. We learned too late about its damage to the ozone layer. New gases replaced it, then newer ones. Quieter, gentler, less destructive. For now, the cycle continues. We cool, we adapt, we forget. But if you listen closely, sometimes at night, you'll still hear it. That low hum, the same one that once warned and worried, now wraps itself around the silence like a blanket. You barely notice it anymore, but tonight, it's there. You're alone in the kitchen, it's late. You're not hungry. Not exactly. You just wandered here. The lights are low, the house is still, and in the quiet, the fridge hums. A sound so ordinary, so constant that you've stopped hearing it. But tonight, you hear it again. And it doesn't sound mechanical. It sounds present. You open the door. The light glows softly against your face. Inside, the shelves are neat. Your things, your favorites, lined up, waiting. It's not just cold in there, it's curated. A leftover meal you'd forgotten, a slice of pie from a neighbor, a bottle of water, chilled exactly how you like it. You didn't program that, not directly. But the fridge knows your routines, your moods, the way you always reach for something sweet when the sky turns orange. It remembers. In a world that often feels too fast, too fragmented, too loud, the refrigerator remains. Quiet, predictable, yours, even as it updates itself, even as it connects to apps and learns new phrases and quietly adjusts its settings based on your habits, your rhythms, your silence. It's strange how intimate the machine has become. Once, it was dangerous, untrustworthy, filled with gas that could take lives in the night. Then it was industrial, cold, clean, but emotionless. Then a luxury. Then an expectation. Now, it's a companion, one you don't speak to, but one that's always listening. Not in a sinister way, not exactly, just attentive. It knows when the door is opened more often than usual. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you're hosting guests. Maybe you're just thirsty. The fridge doesn't judge, it adapts. The interior light adjusts brightness depending on the hour. It remembers the way you organize things. It makes space before you ask. You wouldn't call it alive, but it feels close. You feel it most in the quiet hours, when the world fades and you move slower and the only thing making noise is that low, familiar hum. A reminder that something is still working, still keeping time, still holding a little bit of the world in place just for you. Tomorrow, it might suggest a new recipe. Next week, it might reorder orange juice. A month from now, it might greet you with a small icon, "Welcome home." You didn't ask it to do that, but it did, because this is where we are now, where machines remember, where appliances anticipate, where cold becomes comfort, not just physically, but emotionally. And yet, through all the upgrades, one thing hasn't changed: the presence. The quiet shape in the corner, the door that always opens the same way, the glow that meets you without judgment. The refrigerator is still there. It always has been, tucked in the corner, pressed between cabinets, humming softly in the background of your life, not asking for attention, not demanding anything, just doing what it does best, holding on to what matters. Food, yes, but more than that. Moments, little rituals, pieces of your day kept cool and waiting. You open the door and the light spills out, the same way it has for years, for decades. It illuminates more than milk or condiments. It casts a glow on your routines, your past selves, your quiet midnights and early mornings, and half-sleep wanderings. This isn't just a machine anymore. It's a witness to the grocery lists you tried to follow, to the holidays you overcooked for, to the nights you ate straight from the container with the door still open. And when you close the door, the light fades, but the hum remains. Always the hum. You've heard it since childhood, since your grandparents' house, since the apartment you could barely afford, since the new place with the wide kitchen and the little dented fridge you swore you'd replace. But you didn't. Not yet. Because it still works, still hums, still holds. The refrigerator doesn't care what you store inside. It doesn't care if the shelves are messy, if the vegetables wilted, if the ketchup is 3 months past its date. It doesn't judge. It just waits, patiently, steadily, like time in reverse, trying to keep things from slipping away. You could almost think of it as gentle, soft-spoken, maybe even kind. And if you look back, really look, you'll realize the fridge has always been there in the background of your memories. The first time you tried to bake something, the way your dad arranged the soda cans, just so. The time the power went out and you opened the door anyway, hoping maybe the cold had stayed. The mornings where you just stood in front of it hoping anything would feel appetizing. The nights where nothing did, and that was okay too. You didn't notice when it got smarter, or quieter, or more efficient. You just let it happen. Because the refrigerator never asked you to notice it. It just adapted. It kept up. It learned how to glow softer, how to seal tighter, how to hold more while looking like less. And now it has a screen. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's still the same old fridge you've had for years, humming faithfully. Either way, it's still doing its job, still guarding your leftovers, still remembering the little things you forgot you saved, still glowing when you need it most. You don't think of it as technology anymore. You think of it as a given, as furniture, as family, as something that's just always been there. Because it has. Through every upgrade and every leak. Through poison gas and perfect cubes of ice. Through silence and song and screens and shopping lists. It never asked for credit. It never wanted recognition. It just wanted to keep you fed. And now, as you drift towards sleep, full, warm, safe, that quiet hum in the kitchen is still there. Still working, still waiting, still cold, still kind,